sixth and final match of the Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region is coming up. That's Admirable, and I'm joined by Gallon. We got a rematch that's headed underway with Viper taking on Thijs in this one. Sort of the old guard versus the new guard, but Thijs is the old guard, so not respectively in the way that I'd say. Yeah. Thijs, been to 2 World Championships, 2-time European champion, one of the most winningest and decorated players in Hearthstone to date. Viper in the last year, though, has made quite a resume for himself with his performance. And so I'm looking at this story, and between these two, I mean, 3 out of 5 World Championships have been attended just by these two alone.
I mean, you mentioned it's a rematch, and it's a rematch in both in players, but I also think it's like a rematch in terms of deck lists. We've seen this matchup come up a lot. Pogo Hopper Rogue versus Shark Burgle Tempo Rogue.
Shark Burgle Tempo Rogue is a fairly appropriate name for it, but I'm looking at Raiding Party.
There you go, Raiding Party.
Not in Viper's deck list. Viper's the Pogo Hopper one.
I apologize.
Yeah, so Viper on the Pogo Hopper deck, I believe this is identical to Bunny Hopper's Sans, some of the tertiary and sideboard plans. But kind of looking at overall, this is being one of the big talks of coming off the rise in the next patch, is this deck trying to get its footing and really go forward. So taking a look at the 2 vanishes that remain, we talked to Viper yesterday. He had mentioned that those were player-specific.
And one thing that I want to mention that I think Viper did well with building this list compared to the other Pogo Hopper Rogues that we've seen is that his Acidic Swamp Ooze deck is his tertiary. So games 2 and games 3, Thijs will not know if that's what Viper sided to. I think game 1, we've seen it be pretty lackluster. Maybe we'll do better in games 2 and 3.
Take a look at Thijs' list. Pretty similar to what Roar has brought to this one, but there is some interesting inclusions that are alongside of it, namely the Bloodsail Corsair, which can be fetched from Raiding Party, which won't be relevant in this matchup as there's not a weapon deck on the other side, but also 2 Wisps!
Yes, that's what I was going to talk about. Why aren't you bringing that up first?
Well, I got to come off of my point of the Bloodsail Corsair to go Wisps, and then you grow into it.
There you go. Wisp is a card that you want on the play. You don't want many cards on the play because that means you're on the play.
Well, why do I want Wisp on the play?
Because on turn 3, Wisp lets you go Evil Miscreant for combo activation. Evil Miscreant is the most important card in your deck, so having an extra card to activate it is actually quite nice in this matchup.
Brilliant. It's been a tech I've seen around a couple times. I've seen players vehemently discuss the topic, where some players are very in favor of Wisp.
I think what happened was people said, oh, it's very bad, and then it came along maybe a month ago, and people said, oh, it's very good, and then it stopped seeing play, and people were like, oh, it's very bad again. And now we're like, it's all right.
That is an excellent summary. Very excellent and accurate summary of how the discussion takes place.
Viper, Evil Miscreant.
And coin.
Sweet.
And backstab.
Oh, well, now you're asking for a lot. I mean, I guess it's there.
Well, I want the Edwin,
Why not
too.
keep it? Yeah, there you go.
Viper, I do think, has some pretty interesting takes on the way that he plays Rogue in general. He's a longtime Rogue expert with a ton of experience under his belt. The last time these two played, it was not the case. And Viper, in his debut match in Grandmasters, this was the debut match of Grandmasters as well as Viper versus Thijs. It was pretty much a non-match. Thijs was on a Cyclone Mage, Viper was on Rogue. He got very below average draws and just got blown out of the water. We're suddenly in Viper territory now, where he loves Rogue, and I thoroughly believe he is a master on it.
What just happened? I was hyping this card up for turn 3 Evil Miscreant.
I am so much more hyped about it now.
And Thijs just plays a Wisp.
I was talking about this yesterday, where I have done this, and sometimes it gets in quite a bit of damage. I am very skeptical about this Wisp.
We're in a spot where Murloc Raider would have been a better card. Well, I guess it's just not a misplay not to bring it.
That is wonky looking. We're in match 8 for each player in Hearthstone Grandmasters, the elite of the elite. This is our final match of the day before we head to the Masters Tour in Las Vegas to watch some of the best competitors in the world face off versus players who earned their qualification by fighting through fields of open players in specialist format. We arrive to that point, hyping up and talking the purpose of Wisp in the deck to see it come down turn 1 and attack for 1. This is ridiculous.
I don't know what to say. Oh, Viper goes coin Miscreant. That makes me happy. We see not a lot of that this weekend. We've seen a lot of coin and miscreant, and people just don't coin miscreant turn 2.
Did Viper keep Shiv for the Wisp? He's like, I'm going to keep this Shiv. I know he's going to play the Wisp.
Well, to really talk about it, I think what happened was Viper had the good card. And when you have the good card, bad cards become good alongside of it. I think Shiv is just a card that you kind of want in the mid game. When you have Evil Miscreant, you just want to cycle towards your pogo stuff because you're going to stay alive. Evil Miscreant helps you stay alive really well.
Yeah. Something that I look at specifically is that life total pretty vital for Viper in the matchup. 3-3, super common stat line in Thijs' deck. Backstab Shiv. Saves your life.
Do you ever prep Shiv here? Like backstab prep Shiv?
You know, that's an interesting thought. I think if he had more mana in his hand to use, it's much more likely.
Edwin off the top.
Oh, you're looking for the big one. So you want to lead. You want to lead with the prep Shiv simply for the sake of drawing Edwin. So it's backstab prep Shiv.
I don't want to, but if we got it.
Oh, boy. Hey, you're supposed to be the expert in this position. So when you suggest that play, I'm serious about it. I gotta break that down now.
He decides to go so backstab Shiv. Oh, Viper's hand is very good now.
It's extremely good after that Pogo Hopper.
Yes. That's a 3-3 and a 5-5 for 2 mana, exactly, after he plays this Witchwood Piper.
Or after the Shadow Step.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I mean, this is...
Well, yes, you can play a 1-1, and then you Shadow Step it. It's a 3-3, and the next one you play is a 5-5.
Interesting thing that we saw yesterday with Viper. He had Pogo Hoppers early, and on turn 4, he drew a Witchwood Piper. But rather than go with the Witchwood Piper, he ended up opting for his Pogo Hopper. It was a 5-5 at the time, so he had to play 5-5 and dagger up. Way underutilizing his mana, but getting a benefit because of the minion size. Then on turn 5, rolls right into Witchwood Piper and a 7-7 for 1 mana. It's a super counterintuitive spot, I thought, and it was really interesting. Here, it's almost impossible. Well, now he's drawn Evil Miscreant. Pretend that wasn't in the hand.
Yikes.
If he hadn't drawn Evil Miscreant, I think Witchwood Piper here comes down before the Pogo Hopper does. Really, really weird juxtaposition.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you. I think that the Pogo Hopper is a 1-1 and the Witchwood Piper is a 3-3, and one of them costs 4 mana and one of them costs 1 mana. In the spot that you were talking about, the Pogo Hopper was a 1 mana 5-5, and it was directly contesting stuff the opponent had.
Yeah, it's just the fact that he had Pogo Hoppers load up early caused him to spend less mana on purpose.
I want to say it was against an Augmented Elec. I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong.
I don't remember the specific minion. I just thought it was a cool fact.
There you go.
Thanks for shoving my face in the mud.
Cool fact. Second Evil Miscreant is a cool draw. Do you even just Shadow Step the one? Do we really care about this Pogo Hopper gameplay? Or game plan, I'm sorry.
Well, it is the Pogo Hopper rogue deck.
I mean,
so yeah.
Couldn't we just call it Evil Miscreant rogue deck?
No, that's all of them.
I'm still calling it Evil Miscreant rogue.
Well, that's incorrect.
There's an Evil Miscreant and it's a rogue.
I think Pogo Hopper exists without Evil Miscreant. I don't think the other rogue decks do.
I actually disagree with you. I think that Evil Miscreant is super important to Pogo Hopper rogue.
I didn't say it wasn't important.
Okay, well, I don't think it exists without it. I think that the deck isn't good enough without Evil Miscreant. That card is very powerful.
We'll agree to disagree.
I think that having Evil Miscreant is just so important in a lot of your games because it does everything that you want it to do. It lets you spend your mana easily. You know?
Yeah. Oh, that makes Witchwood Piper dead.
Do you even care?
I guess it's technically not dead. It can draw Lab Recruiter.
Myra's picked up makes me want to take it and just start jamming face. Maybe we can play a little bit more defensive with the backstep, but Myra's is just so good.
Yeah, this is an interesting turn. You know, Thijs so far has taken the game fairly slow due to his hand. Just, you know, Waggle's pick. Why do I keep saying Waggle's pick? How did I get on this habit? Waggle pick, Greenskin. Just hand's kind of clunky, so I think Viper has a lot of strong angles of attack, and I think pretty much all these cards have some sort of a justification to them.
There's a lot worse things to say.
Indeed.
Yep.
I could say things like Pogo Hopper Rogue is actually Evil Miscreant Rogue.
I was just referring to Waggle pick, but let's continue on. Viper wants to get a Lab Recruiter here. Once he gets Lab Recruiter, I think he's just going to out-tempo Thijs in this game.
Let's go for big and ball. He's going in.
Fen Creeper. There used to be a card that was played. Actually, Fen Creeper was played for a little bit, right?
In the form of Dire Horn Hatchling, yes.
Whoa. That's a lot different. I was talking about Crazed Fanatic.
That's also different. Buffshot Cthulhu.
Yeah, but it was a Fen Creeper.
Thijs is in a tough spot. He's just taking a lot of chip damage, is the thing. So, I mean, Life Drinker, Southsea Deckhand attack the Fen Creeper twice.
And then just next turn you play
Yeah, you go in.
your Myras. Yeah, I kind of like it. This is not a turn where we're really spending our mana. Like, we can't really spend our mana past the Myra's Unstable Element, right? If we do this now, we open ourselves up to getting a huge Edwin, which is, I think, one of the ways we maintain tempo in the turn that we Myras. Otherwise, we'll just fall way too far behind.
Yeah, you're thinking like draw Dread Corsair, have a Shadow Step,
Yep.
another one drop dead to it, etc.
Yep. I mean, this turn, it's just too yucky. That's what Thijs thinks too. This is an interesting thing, I feel like, in the Rogue Mirror, is if you're the deck without Pogo Hopper, when do you Myras? Or just, if both decks don't have Pogo Hopper, when do you Myras?
You drew the Lab Recruiter naturally.
That is sweet.
And he's prepping the fan to try and draw Pogo Hopper right away.
Why not? Let's see if it pays off. Do you Togwaggle Scheme?
You know, I was just about to ask this. I think it's a combo activator, and that's a better justification. You also get to dagger
It's
up again.
close. But it just gives you another out at drawing your
Yeah, you're drawing one next turn,
big
you know.
thing. You get a 7/7 and a 9/9 instead of a single 7/7.
I'm so tempted. This is where Gallon is officially starting to rub off on me. Where he's like, well, I have a card I could play. Why wouldn't I play it?
I like it, man. Viper likes chew.
I thought certainly that was not going to be right.
Well, just because Viper did it and I suggested it doesn't mean that it's right.
I never really thought about that.
Sometimes you can come to the same conclusion as someone and you're both wrong. If I'm coming to the same conclusion as Viper, I'm feeling a little bit more confident because he's very smart.
I was just about to comment on this.
Yeah.
In the factoid of, so you're telling me I shouldn't just believe everything that I believe just because somebody that I believe confirmed my belief.
I believe.
Makes sense to me.
Thijs opting to go for Evil Miscreant instead of Myra's. I think if you do the Myra's, you got one game plan that works and a lot that doesn't.
Okay.
We did not get a Kobold Lackey. Backstab would be great. Sinister Strike is also great. You could be looking at Walk the Plank because...
Oh, because a Pogo... I mean, you just saw him Togwaggle scheme one Pogo Hopper into the deck.
Oh, it's actually just such a hard decision to make, right? Because if you take the Walk the Plank, you're committing to taking a long game plan, which means the Myra's is no longer your current play.
Wait, how did that become a 4/4?
Come dance to my song.
I don't want to answer.
What did I miss? Oh, it's a demon. Oh my...
That's actually crazy.
From that 2-drop.
Yes.
Void Analyst. It says Death Rattle all demons in your hand game +1/+1.
I just totally forgot. That's actually really funny. Wow.
I wonder.
What other neutral demons are there? There's Void Ripper, but that's not in standard
Illidan.
anymore. Illidan.
There's so many. Sneaky Devil.
I have a funny story about Illidan. I bet you remember this one. It was spring 2016 playoffs. I was running Bane of Doom in my Reno Lock deck that was missing. It was a combo lock without Power Overwhelming, which is an important part of the combo. I didn't even check. Admirable was talking to me about before the game how I was just going to get beat. I had two decks that were miserable.
Well, you asked me about the matchup.
Yeah, well, I had two decks that were miserable versus his lineup. And game two, I believe, I just Bane of Doom and get an Illidan Storm Rage. He doesn't answer it. I win the game. He was very salty after that.
I was pretty upset. I mean, you won like 4 unfavorables in a row.
Yeah.
I was a little mad.
I brought Worgen Warrior to that tournament.
That became one of my favorite decks of all time.
They nerfed Charge.
Rightfully so. Thijs fighting back, but Viper's just out of stuff at this point. Like, honestly, deviating away from the Myers game plan, I think, paid off really well here. The walk to plank was a major turn.
Yep. I mean, it shows you how Thijs is approaching this matchup, right? He could have taken Sinister Strike, just go for the Myers Unstable Element, kill you game plan, but he says, hey, I can still take this slowly. You know?
Myers when I have more mana.
Viper is kind of out of cards. He clearly doesn't have a Myers. He would have played it at this point.
So I think that backstab that he used, Viper, instead of the Myers that he could have taken.
Yeah.
What would he have lost on board as a result of the fight, and what would he have gained by result of having a Myers?
I think it's a really interesting decision point.
Yep.
Upstairs.
Get him.
One of the problems with Viper right now is that he does not run burst damage.
No Leroy, no Eviscerates.
Yep.
The Shiv has been used. Turn 1 Wisp was played this game, by the way. Turn 1 Wisp.
Is this the turn that Thijs goes for the Myras?
I think his turn's strong enough without it.
You want to play your Dread Corsair this turn, because you're dead a lot of the time if you don't. Which means you want to play your SI7 as well, because if your turn is Dread Corsair, Myers, and Stable Element, you're dead.
This guy's toast.
Killing the Piper over the Edwin for the sake of Shadow Step. It would produce a very large Pogo Hopper.
Makes a lot of sense. Just playing his 1-2, so it's in play. Love it.
Two card draws next turn for Viper versus 9 or 10 for Thijs, but Thijs has to win within a very small time window after that. He'll take 1 hit fatigue and then 2 hits fatigue. Maybe Waggle Pick changes something, but
well,
I don't
actually think
so.
that's a huge amount of time for him. I think the fact that Viper is not running damage in his deck means that Thijs is just quite safe here.
I agree.
His opponent is at 16 life right now.
Oh my. Well, how much damage is this? Hang on a second. Leroy's picked up, so 2 poisons, Edwin Van Cleef, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm sorry, SI7 agent, 11, 12. So if you look at the Leroy instead.
Are we 2 off? We can go Deadly Deadly.
Yeah, I think he's just a couple points off. So that tells me Life Drinker and stay alive. Utilize all the mana next turn.
We're a couple mana off from lethal here. We do have a lethal setup, but I think we leave it 7 mana.
Oh, I didn't see Shadow Step, the minion you already have in play. Wait a minute, hang on a second. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. He'd already attacked face for something. Maybe he did. You could Shadow Step just the minion you had in play.
No, you were going to be off by just a little bit. He didn't have enough mana. I think that the SI7 line, it was going to be.
It 14 damage.
7 mana. It was going to be 7 mana. It was 2 off. Yep.
It 14 damage max that turn.
I hope you like my invention.
Pogo Hopper
Or
Ziliax.
it might have just been 6 mana. Either way, it was not.
Pogo Hopper Ziliax.
Ooh, that doesn't do it.
Such a good start for Viper.
I just want to highlight how patient Thijs was with that Ziliax. Not with that Ziliax, with the Myers Unstable Element. I thought that was really clever.
Viper, he was wondering what went wrong. I mean, after the game, he had his head in his hand. He's shaking his head. Thijs, on the other hand, he's sipping tea.
Viper started with an Evil Miscreant on the coin, and he lost the game. Maybe Evil Miscreant is just terrible, based on this 1 game sample size.
I look at the backstab Myers turn.
Yeah.
I see exactly where he's going. He has still plenty of stuff in hand, but it's only like 1 or 2 waves of it.
Yep.
And so he's relying on just the natural strength of his deck in that spot, which if you look, his average draw is quite strong. There's Ziliax in there. There's 2 copies of Vanish. There's the Myras. There's the extra Pogo Hoppers that are in there. Evil Miscreant, Witchwood Piper. A lot of his draws are just good.
One thing that I noticed is that Pogo Hopper Rogue is very reliant on its Myras. I feel like Raiding Party Rogue has a lot of ways of just, maintaining tempo for the entire game. Like, look at how Thijs played. he had maybe 11 or 12 turns, probably not that many, but he had a lot of turns in a row where he had few cards in hand, but he still was just using his mana efficiently pretty much every single turn. I feel like with Pogo Hopper, you're put in a lot of spots where you have cards that just don't do anything, and you have a lot of cards that don't do anything by themselves. So you need your Myras to get you the few that do to make your cards that don't do anything better.
Which kind of brings me to the follow-up point on that, which is if he takes the Myras in that spot, considering how many strong draws he has, how much more likely are you to hit a strong draw if you have Myras versus if you backstab for tempo that turn? Again, I don't recall the exact situation and how it looks when he doesn't backstab and how he has to fight for board in that position. But I got to imagine if you're Myrazing, you have a pretty strong potential to win that game.
I mean, it just comes down to whether Viper felt safe enough. Guess he didn't.
Or he felt strong enough to be able to push through.
Yeah, that too. I mean, he had a
That
hand
to me is
where
what
he had
it is.
1 mana 5/5 at one point with the Witchwood Pipers.
Viper has moved over to the tertiary deck, which removes 2 Saps, 2 Vanish, and a Novice Engineer. He adds in its place Geppetto Joybuzz, Shiv, 2 Acidic Swamp Ooze, and a Serrated Tooth.
I like this a lot.
The Serrated Tooth, I looked at this and I went, what in the world? And then I realized, wait a minute, you're playing 1 mana 5/5s and 7/7s at some point. Why not rush them into their minions?
I think what happened was people were first testing out Magic Carpet, and they said, this is too clunky. If we don't get exactly our Pogos, they just aren't worth it.
Yeah.
But with Serrated Tooth, you actually have a lot of minions, right? So every minion that isn't a Pogo Hopper can also get Rush, and then you can fight on board, and suddenly your weak and lackluster cards and your medium draws can actually contest for a couple more turns.
Thijs, meanwhile, sticking with the Wisps.
Turn 1 Wisp.
Turn 1 Wisp! He won that game!
You think if he had 2, would he just play 2?
Turn 1 Wisp in Hearthstone Grandmasters has a 100% win rate from what I have seen anyway. I haven't seen every single game in Grandmasters, but in the European region, it's a 100% win rate on turn 1.
I still can't get over that situation. That was so funny.
This 5 years of Hearthstone have culminated to that moment. It's ridiculous.
This feels like someone just picked up Hearthstone for the first time. They're like, oh, this is a card I can play. They just didn't scroll past the Murloc Raider.
You got to start somewhere. Everyone at some point played their first game of Hearthstone when they started playing Hearthstone.
Yeah, that's very true. What if you have to like play the weak cards in your first games before you can play the stronger cards? So your first games are just Wisps.
Yeah, that's
actually kind of how it works.
Yeah, that's almost exactly
Wait a
how it works,
second.
Gallon.
I just learned something.
It's come full circle now.
It's been a while.
You start with the weakest cards.
It's been a while.
end with the weakest cards.
Thijs is embracing his F2P roots. Grandmasters.
And now Thijs has the evil miscreant with coin.
Man, did I just sound dumb there?
Well, that's not a deviation from the norm.
Oh.
It's been a fun weekend with you, Gallon.
Yeah, man. This is our last game. Or not last game. Might be our last game, but our last match together.
It just reminds me of the bit from playoffs before we swapped over to this competitive system where TJ was running around telling everyone it was the last time that something very specific in this very specific scenario was going to happen. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it works when you get that specific. It's the first and the last of both of those things.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I've had a lot of fun this weekend.
Yeah, me too. It's been really fun.
One thing I can say is casting is actually super tough. There's a lot of things you have to think about outside of... Yeah, I know, right? There's a lot of things you actually have to think about outside the game. For me, personally, I felt like when we're in-game, that's actually the easiest. Like, when we're thinking about all the plays that people can make, that is when I feel it is the easiest. The plays are very hard.
It's those slight momentary moments where the dread of camera hits Gallon's face. He then realizes,
well, yeah, you have to think about
pro playing is easier. It's not.
You gotta think about 6 things at once.
It's different.
Yeah, I think that it is very different.
Oh, God, this miscreant was so good.
Those are the best ones, too. We have a Shadow Step in our hand. Viper has a miscreant and a Shadow Step in his hand.
All right, we got dueling miscreants. Whoa! That's the same thing!
My mouth is just open.
That's so weird.
It's like sometimes this happens in a game of Hearthstone where people get the similar outcome. Does he play a Temple Wisp? Over under on it.
It's not happening this game.
Yeah. There's a dagger up.
I am curious about the Shadow Step, however. One of the reasons I'm looking at Shadow Step right now is because of Evil Miscreant on the opposing side. It means that 2 damage is going to hit this Miscreant with the dagger so often, and then I feel like you might get stuck with a Shadow Step in your hand.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Our Shadow Step is not hitting anything else that's quite relevant besides this.
Where does it matter down the line? Leroy?
I mean, I think it's just mainly Evil Miscreant that you want to Shadow Step. There's Edwin. That's a big consideration, but we don't have Edwin in our hand.
You always preach about Shadow Stepping these to me. Every single time that we sit down and play Hearthstone, you're like, oh, Shadow Step that Miscreant.
So what Thijs is thinking is, you know, his opponent's probably going to play a bunch of 1/1s right now. If we... Oh, this is weird.
Edwin.
No, I agree with what Viper is doing for the Edwin. I'm just... He could have gone Kobold Lackey instead. I guess what he wants to do is just have stuff in play. That makes sense.
What's better than some stuff in play?
No, this is definitely right.
More stuff in play.
Yeah, this is definitely right. Even with a Shadow Step in Thijs' hand, this is definitely right.
Viper's got Acidic Swamp who's ready to go as well. Thijs is going to have a tough time racing this game.
Thijs can clear this, but it's going to be awkward. He needs to use Kobold Lackey and Shadow Step.
I
Viper Faceless first.
He's killing the 1/1. Or more specifically, the 1/1 that draws a card.
Also the one with the spell damage.
Yeah, that's true.
Another Miscreant.
Dread Corsair. What is our game?
I think he's going to tank the Edwin.
Could have killed the Edwin outright with Kobold Lackey, Shadow Step, Kobold Lackey. I guess what he's saying is that you just don't win if that happens. So we're just going to take 8. That's the situation we're in.
It's a big ouchies, but, you know, think back to last game. Viper does not have burst damage in the deck.
That's big ouchies.
I think he's okay with it. I think this is actually a very clever use, a very aggressive use of the life total here. He realizes that in the matchup, Viper has to win via pressure. He's not going to win via burst.
I mean, this came up last game, too, where Thijs was just safe to play his Myras. He was at 6 life against a rogue deck, and there was no danger of dying, even if his opponent drew exactly Myra's Unstable Element.
It's a different rogue deck.
That is weird.
It's unusual,
Unusual.
to say the least. Viper took a deep breath there. This
Viper's hand is quite good. I want to start with Kobold Lackey, Evil Miscreant. Kobold Lackey, a 3/3. Yep.
Up to no good.
choose soon.
Evil Miscreant is such an interestingly designed card.
Taking advantage of the lifesteal, the ankle biter.
He's even evolving it.
Ooh, that draws a Zilliax.
Ooh, no, that draws a Pogo
Oh, it draws a
Hopper.
Pogo Hopper as well.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I need Ursatron in my Pogo Hopper.
We go
deck.
Witchwood Piper. Well, we can't play the Lab Recruiter alongside. That's going to be 7 mana. Witchwood Piper, Pogo Hopper, Lab Recruiter is 7 mana.
Thijs is, Thijs is in bad shape after that turn.
That is maybe, if not the best 3-drop that Viper could have gotten. For his deck specifically, Ursatron is incredible.
I'm actually wondering if this is superior to Mukla.
I have to imagine it is.
Mukla's just a lot of damage.
Mukla's big. Mukla is big.
Yeah. I mean, you and Purple were just putting Mukla in decks.
Yeah. Well, it was good.
Oh, up to no good.
It's top 3. Injured Blade Master, King Mukla,
Oh,
and
Blade Master. Forgot about that one.
but Ursatron's up there, man.
Patient Assassin.
That's good too.
There's 2 Phantom Knives in Viper's deck.
But he doesn't have it.
I'm talking about Thijs' thinking. He's like, oh, I maybe should try to capitalize.
Thijs is thinking he shouldn't have it here. That's what he's thinking.
Yeah, I do imagine Thijs thinking if he's got Phantom Knives, I'm just going to lose.
You're dead.
Discover available. I am very interested to see how Viper sets this turn up because there's a lot of goals that he has, I think, that win the game. getting a big board swing, help win the game. Building towards Pogo Hoppers, help win the game.
He could guarantee a Zilliax. So what I was thinking was we go Witchwood Piper and Dagger. We get both Pogo Hoppers in our hand.
Can't
Right.
Witchwood Piper. Oh, you mean before the Discover?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So we go Witchwood Piper Dagger. We get both Pogo Hoppers. The only mech left in our deck is, I believe...
I wonder.
Yeah, there is no Snip Snap. I believe it's Zilliax.
So play for the ultimate defense.
I think that Zilliax is a
Possible.
card that... Yeah, I think Zilliax locks out this game.
Just because Thijs is caught in a fight
you
with
might
Lord.
notice that he's still doing the exact same thing that I said, but instead of going Dagger, he developed 2 1/1s.
Yeah.
So he is thinking about it. I like it a lot. I think the 1/1s are pretty marginal. It's similar, I would say. It does develop his game plan a bit more as well.
Just Thijs is caught in a board fight with a burn deck.
Exactly. Thijs is caught in a
I
board fight
wonder.
with a deck that gets board. He is the burn deck.
Yeah. Thijs is the burn deck, and he's fighting for board.
Okay. I
Ideal
said with a
situation.
burn deck, which is not the case.
Yeah, Thijs is with
All
a
right, I
burn
think I
deck
understand
in a
now.
board fight.
Yes.
Yeah, there's commas in there and stuff. It's a grammar literary thing.
You wouldn't know about it. That is a beautiful sight to see as Viper.
I think everything that's happening is a beautiful sight to see. All of Thijs' things are going into your things and dying, and he has less cards and you have more.
And you have a Zilliax. You can't die.
What's the main? Was it just Edwin? Is Edwin the main difference in this game? Like that's yielded this kind of position? Just big stuff?
Yes, Edwin is very good at making people use their resources in ways they don't want to.
Oh my! And Thijs knows that he knows that the Zilliax's a possibility.
It's it's not even a possibility because he saw. Well, actually, no, it might.
Because the Pogo Hopper that Viper
Yes,
played,
it's 50-50. I apologize. I apologize.
from Thijs' perspective
Yes.
anyway.
I want you, and
Oh.
you, and you.
It is quite likely, though. It's higher than 50% for that Zilliax to be there. Because remember, he could have had it before the draw, or he could have drawn the other Pogo Hopper, which is what happened in this case.
Going south quick.
Viper is just free to play with his life total here. If Thijs tries to go face,
By the way.
I mean, Thijs
I
has committed to this
wonder.
game plan. He can't really switch off of it. He has a clear path
He
to
now
victory.
he does now know that it's a Zilliax in hand though,
Mm-hmm.
because the other Pogo Hopper
Sure.
got played,
Sure. That's true.
and I think that's what's causing the deep thought here. I mean, if your plan was the all in last turn and you didn't get
Are
new
you?
information,
Yeah. Wasn't Viper supposed to play the
wonder.
other Pogo Hopper then?
it died. That's the fresh one from hand. He played the second Pogo Hopper this turn to Lab Recruiter.
Oh, okay. And then he drew a card.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Now it makes sense. My bad. I for some reason I just missed the Witchwood Piper entirely. Rain is getting a little bit fried here, I would say. Wow.
Steals the Zilliax away as a possibility. Perhaps Viper messes up with it.
Maybe you get a Shadow Step. Oh,
Well, that's
the exact opposite.
yeah. I think that Thijs is trying to find a line away and he can't see one.
Yeah.
And he's
yeah.
like, oh, jeez.
And the second Pogo Hopper
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
I mean,
this is just.
We got to this point.
Yeah. Why not more?
Boing, boing.
I'm glad you said that. I'm so happy you said that. I've been saying that all weekend.
I just saw Casey saying it.
Every
Twitter.
single time I said it, you looked at me like I was. You just looked at me the wrong way, man.
I gave you the look.
You gave me the look.
That's funny. I gave you the that's funny
Yeah.
look.
You gave me the. What are you saying?
No.
I give up.
Game 3 is coming up. A reversal of roles. I just want to point out that the common denominator is no longer Wisp. The common denominator is losing and Coin Miscreant.
That's 2 games in a row. If we're using that as our only sample size, Evil Miscreant is the worst card in the game.
Well, I don't think that. I mean, Coin Miscreant obviously is very powerful.
Yep.
But I think that illustrations like this kind of give some merit to players who preach against using Coin Miscreant. and instead want to find ways to use Miscreant to help swing the board. They want to generate presence in another way and then have Evil Miscreant follow up and capitalize on those little situations where you're spent with clunky tools and lots of little objectives. They want the little tools for the little objectives and the clunky tools to get things started.
What I want to say is an 8-8 beats a 1-4.
Yeah, true story. Man, why you got to bring that up that way?
Edwin is
The Edwin yielded initiative back over to Viper in that case. I don't think the Edwin ended the game, though.
It dealt 8 to Thijs, and he had to use a Miscreant. He had to use pretty much a lot of his resources to answer it.
Yeah, but he answered it, though, and he answered it fairly efficiently.
Yeah, but when you use a lot of your resources, that's resources that you lose for later, and he did not have the resources for later to win that game. So yes, the Edwin did die.
I don't think the resources later would have won him the game.
That's fair.
I think what won the game there for Viper was an overarching game plan where Ziliax provided major defense thanks to an evolve.
Yeah, the Ursatron was huge too. I think everything went that way for Viper.
I think if Viper played I don't know, like a...
No, I think you're right.
Like a spider tank in that spot, he would have been fine. I think Thijs would have had more tempo, and I think at the end of the day, Viper gets the board.
It would have gone on for a couple more turns.
Yeah, I think so. Nevertheless. I'm not going to deny its importance. However, I don't think it was the vital role.
8-8 on turn 4.
I don't think it was the vital role.
All right. I'm not going to say anything.
Good.
Because if I did, I'd be disagreeing with you.
You can't do it when you got the Edwin in hand, right? Okay. Whew.
Oh, you were talking about
the Wisp. I was talking about the Wisp.
Sure what you meant.
So Thijs is looking at, I think, turn 4 here. Dread Corsair in the following turn, and then look to South Sea Deckhand, backstab Wisp, Edwin, and move in.
Make an 8-8, just like Viper did to him last game.
Maybe if you draw a Shadow Step, it's even bigger. But Coin Miscreant. Right now, this is the common denominator for losing the game. And Thijs broke the chain.
In such a bad spot here with this Coin Miscreant turn 2.
Thijs broke the chain of the 100.
How's he gonna win this one?
Thijs broke the chain of the 100% win rate turn 1 Wisp. This is chaos now.
No, that's not true.
He didn't play it.
Yeah, so he didn't break the win rate.
But he didn't follow up on it. He didn't capitalize on that powerful play.
He didn't break it. I think he's juicing it up. In fact, I know he's juicing it up.
Blood and plunder.
Doesn't hit the dagger.
I think he's just doing what you're saying, man.
Well, if you hit with the dagger, it prevents a bump and
yeah, it also prevents minorly the ooze, but I don't think
backstab in general.
Yeah, but you're never playing ooze here. Yeah, you're saying backstab specifically is,
and it prevents the bump from the Miscreant plus a Shadow Step or an Evolve. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I feel like this bump is very necessary.
That's true.
I think without bumping, he might have cost himself a lot of leverage in this spot now.
That's very fair to say. Pine-Sign Summoner. You know what she's quite jealous of? The gallon-size Summoner.
I was like, where on earth is Gallon going with this?
It's literally the flavor text of that card.
Oh, is that literally what it says? That's funny.
I've used that before. Now I've used it again. I'll probably use it in the future.
Recycle the jokes.
You know, people only watch like a couple hours at a time.
Look, it's just responsible to recycle.
Yeah. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Reusable.
Yeah, so we reduce the jokes, we reuse them, and then I guess God, that word is hard to say.
Recycle?
Reuse. If you say it multiple times.
Reuse.
Okay, please don't. Okay, now you're just embarrassing.
Edwin Van Cleef. I messed it up!
The Brotherhood.
Thijs didn't. He played his cards in the right order.
Yeah. So that's something Thijs could have been thinking about too as well, is if I leave the 3/3 Corsair here, or the poke or whatever, it could prevent like a backstab and poke with the Evil Miscreant. It doesn't prevent Thanos, of course, but maybe he uses backstab in this spot and I get a payoff from it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's quite reasonable to think about that he could be actively trying to get a backstab from Viper, since it's one of the few points he has of just direct damage from a cheap card.
Cold Lackey being picked up. Do we have an answer?
Nothing.
We do not.
Power.
Myra's being picked up.
Well, I'm not taking Cannon Barrage or Raiding Party here. All right, I'm getting worried.
I'm looking at Faceless Lackey and Kobold Lackey, maybe Shadow Stepping our Lackey. Our Kobold, specifically.
Scrub.
I want to...
Can you shadow step that one?
That's interesting.
Makes 2 things.
Choose soon.
I still like Kobold Lackey instead.
You just want to make sure you can kill this Edwin.
Yeah. I want to do it now because, you know, we're just going for tempo plays. Ooh, Shadows.
Oh, he's building a board.
That's interesting. That was a lot of resources being used.
He's got a lot more in hand, though.
Yeah, but with the Shadow Step, we could play 2 more Lackeys off of our Evil Miscreant.
Yeah, but, I mean, think about... I mean, Thijs doesn't really have stuff in the deck that answers this. Like, we're looking at no Fan of Knives. The direct damage is 1 South Sea deckhand,
So
backstab,
many options.
eviscerate SI7 agent. I don't know, but
Blood and plunder.
Did Viper just put himself in a spot where he can't actually answer this Edwin? That's what I have to wonder.
that's... I mean, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm trying to think of draws that really get this done. The
Fan
saps
of
are
Knives
saps are
answers-
gone.
Fan of Knives answers the Edwin, but you have to take 8. I mean, you just got to fan. I really don't like that Shadow Step usage. I honestly think that was the
So many options.
that was a major error. It was a minor error that ends up being major.
So if you 2 to the Edwin and then you shadow step back the Kobold, you have less on board right now, or unless you're playing the Kobold immediately again. I imagine you want to save it.
I want to save it for the
Miscreant.
Evil Miscreant.
So that takes the Edwin down to 4, and then you Evil Miscreant, and you have
Well, now
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you have less minions in play too because you didn't shadow step the for the minion.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think both plays work out to where Viper's not going to be answering the Edwin.
yeah, but you're still dealing a guaranteed 2 to the 8/6, and you know if your Evil Miscreant pulls any more
Choose
good
soon.
cards, which it often does, because Lackeys are good cards.
One of the things I'm looking at exactly with it is that it wouldn't occupy as much as Viper's mana this turn. And so with Thijs running out of cards, I feel like taking a shot from the Edwin and then clearing it up afterwards with a higher % chance probably buys you more life total. But Thijs' hand is just dead. Even with the Edwin surviving and getting in 2 shots, this might not be enough. So think about the tempo that's generated on Viper's side, where he tanks this damage because Viper's so low on resources. I'm sorry, because Thijs so low on resources, and then Viper gets to capitalize. That's literally what's happening.
If you kill the Edwin instead,
If-
I think you have a higher chance of killing the Edwin if you Shadow Step the Kobold Lackey.
Maybe that wasn't his priority last turn. He's getting ahead.
Hitting you in the face for 8.
He's
every
about to
single
take
turn.
the board and run away with the game.
But he opens himself up to one of the few ways he could lose.
True story.
If you don't take 8 there, you're going to win this game no matter what, all right? You both got Myras, but you're at 20 instead of 12. Don't you do it on...
I want you.
He's killing Wagglepix. He goes, I just want to
Fair.
kill Wagglepix as much as possible.
It's one of the few ways you lose from this spot, right?
I think so. Yeah, he strictly took advantage of the board. I honestly look back, and that was Viper's goal.
Sure.
Run Thijs out of resources. I'll pay life. What do I need this extra 12 for? As long as I'm at 1, I can kill you.
I mean, look at this turn, right? If you actually drew a Leroy off the top, I think Thijs
Yeah, no, it's bad news if that happens.
Thijs locks out the game. He fills up Viper's board. Viper has to go shiv on one of his own minions and do exactly Zilliax.
Or Evolve Taunt. Just some crazy thing afterwards.
Yeah. You got to do the math on the Evil Miscreant, I would say. Pilfer. We
Betrayal?
need a Myras.
Oh, yeah. You're thinking
We're not winning with this hand.
long shot at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense.
Pilfer into Heist Baron Togwaggle.
Oh, you're going to be dead.
Choose so many.
Thijs runs a prep. It's so far.
Oh no, he's got a taunt too.
That's a totem cruncher without taunt. It even says taunt on the card, yet it doesn't have it.
It's one of those uses. I don't know, man. I think Viper played this game pretty excellently. I'm impressed by this. I honestly thought this was going to fail, and then as I saw him continue to make minion after minion after minion, I was like, wait a minute. That's a good way to beat Rogue. You use all your stuff, then you get more minions than them.
He lined up the turns afterwards quite well. If you're taking 8 there, you're just assuming that this is always going to happen.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think it was just a good play. I really do. It's risky. I would not have done it, but when I see it now,
I want you.
think a lot more when I get in those situations.
Stuff in play.
He's like, I can't even lose to the waggle pick anymore. Go face.
I agree. We need something here. Wisp is not it.
It was his first play of the match. It was his last play of the match.
I give up.
He didn't play the full silver force there. That was good.
Viper, 2 games to 1 over Thijs, emerges victorious in a pretty weird-looking set. I think if you look at just plays kind of individually, how often can you set up a kill and win? Don't do it and have a benefit from it. How often do you play Wisp on turn 1 and win a game? How often is Wisp in that same series their last play and you win the game? How often do you be that patient with Myra's unstable element when you're meanwhile playing like 4 and 3 mana Dread Corsairs and it's winning the game? Like, everything in that set was like non-standard stuff happening and yielding good results.
How do you even think about a match normally after your opponent goes turn 1 Wisp?
I don't know.
Game 1 of the match.
I'm still baffled by it.
He roped out after Thijs went turn 1 Wisp.
And this means also that Viper has now answered back against Thijs. Thijs got the better of Viper in the first set, where I think Viper fell to some pretty unfortunate luck. But now pulls back a win against Thijs and is now 5-3 in match score for Grandmasters here. And he's ready for an interview. Viper, can you hear us?
Hey.
How's it going, my friend? I have to address the big thing. Turn 1 Wisp. What was going through your head when you saw that?
Honestly, it was like very interesting for me because like there was the option of I could coin my dagger, I could prep the shift on 1. Prepping shift on 1 usually saves me 2 points of health. Like when am I gonna use it later on? I can coin dagger into redagger, coin dagger into shift, do some prep things on free of the miscreant. Like it was probably the most difficult turn 1 with Rogue I've had in a while.
Because of a Wisp.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like, if it's a saucy deck and it's easy, you prep shift and you kill it. But it's only a Wisp. Yeah.
Such an inferior minion, you don't want to kill it.
Maybe just play to confuse your opponent.
Yeah.
I actually have a question for you, Viper. One thing that we see with your Pogo Hopper Rogue list compared to other Pogo Rogues we saw this weekend was that you have your Acidic Swamp Oozes in your tertiary list instead of the main board. Do you think that that is a card that you want in your primary or your tertiary, even if you're seeing a lot of rogues?
I think it just depends on what you expect. I mean, in the end, like GM is different from other tournaments where you play 10 rounds of Swiss, for example, or 12 like in Vegas gonna be. And GM's 2 opponents a week, and I thought I'm gonna face mages, so I was like, okay, I don't need those oozes, I need those vanishes. Let's swap these around for my first deck, kind of.
And talk to me about your experience now with Pogo Hopper Rogue. You actually went 2-0 with it this week, with quite an impressive performance, I must say. Where do you see this deck kind of landing? You chose to bring Vanish, as you had mentioned yesterday, due to the matchups you expected to face. Do you feel like this is a deck where you're going to have to mess around a lot with tech cards, or do you think it wants to really go one direction and try to push its game plan as much as possible?
I think one of the beauty of the deck is kind of that you have so many tech options, and you kind of can make, or that's more or less a thing Rogue can do in general. Rogue can just be favored against what it wants to be favored. So I think that's probably one of the strongest things for the specialist format for Rogue, especially as a class, because you can just choose, okay, I think I play against this on this, or okay, this is a 12-round Swiss. 8 or 9 rounds gonna be those 3 decks. Okay, I build 3 decks against them, and I think Rogue is probably even the best class to do that. In some other decks and classes, you kind of find a hard time getting a good third deck together, even though you think like, my primary deck is insane. Then you think about, okay, well, then the other guy is going to attack against me, but, oh, what do I do? Well, doesn't look so great.
And now with your rematch versus Thijs, you were able to pick this one up. With the rest of your matches in Grandmasters being rematches, is there anyone you're looking forward to playing against?
I think I'm going to look. I'm not sure. I think I'm looking forward to my match against Bunny. Honestly, I mean, I play a lot against Bunny in practice, and I always enjoy these series. They're always interesting, and I think they're very high quality. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I think it's going to be an important one.
Well, I'm always entertained by watching him, and honestly, that's a series for me personally. I'm also very much looking forward to. Viper, congratulations on your win. Thank you for your time, and good luck next week at Las Vegas.
Thanks, guys.
That's a pretty interesting point he makes about Rogue and the flexibility of tech cards. I think that's the reason we're seeing so many different archetypes of it as well, is because each different tech card means that you typically want to have a different game plan in general.
I think that Rogue also gives each player an opportunity to express their own playstyle a bit, I would say. I agree with him that it's very flexible and that if you want to beat a certain matchup as Rogue, you can. If you want to beat every single matchup as Rogue, I don't think that is possible. I think that you have to focus on 1 or 2 classes at once.
This means you got to out-predict the field at that point.
Yep. I think Viper's actually very good at that.
Yeah, I think he's been clearly very good at that, given that he got second at the World Championships last year. A pretty ridiculous feat. And so, with that, it means that we are done with the European region, which means that we're coming up on the post-show where TJ and Dan are joining us to wrap things up and then head over to the Americas region where we got 6 matches of Hearthstone there. So stay tuned. We got plenty more Hearthstone coming up right after this.